Welcome to the Sports Lounge, the 117th edition, the Florida Marlins edition. Travis Krins right here. Nathan Stacken up in Brookings, South Dakota. What do we got here? You got supporting the local restaurants there.
Yes.
The Buffalo Wild Wings. So appreciate them sponsoring the eating portion.
Damn right.
Minnesota Wild, their season is done. Talk on that a little bit later, I guess. NBA playoffs. I wasn't excited about the first round. I thought I'd be more excited about the second round, but my Spurs aren't in there. My Bulls, however, are in there, and they lost 86-84. LeBron James made a very difficult shot in the left corner on an inbounds play with a second and a half left in a 84-84 tie to win the game there. So a very important for him to make, or else the game would have went into overtime. Very inconsistent. Chicago's been all season. They've played the 3 of the 4 games have been close and competitive here, except game number 2. So I thought, game 1, didn't know how that was going to go. Chicago won, so I'm like, okay, there's no way Cleveland's losing game 2. So
Right.
Cleveland dominated game 2. Game 3, really didn't know what to expect. Chicago won on that 3-pointer by Derrick Rose at the buzzer. So I'm like, okay. Since first 3 games in the books, I expect Cleveland to win today, which they did. That was in doubt for a long time. I expect Cleveland to win on Tuesday at home. I probably expect Chicago to win the next game, game 6 at home, and then Cleveland to shut it out in 7. I could see Cleveland shutting this out in 6, but it seems very, very clear Chicago's not winning this series. I mean, I think this game here, even though it's only 2-2, this game decided the series right here.
But remember, Paul Gasol wasn't playing in this one.
Yep.
How big of a
You had
factor
to
was
win. You had to win this. Not a huge factor. I mean, Kyrie Irving, he's basically useless now. He played 41 minutes.
Yeah, he was
bad. Really was not. He's injured. He's hurt. Kevin Love is out. LeBron twisted his ankle late in the game. He seemed fine. He did not play very well. 25 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists. You look at that stat line and say, God damn. He had a hell of a game, but he really didn't. 1 of 7 from 3, 10 of 30 from the field, 8 turnovers. That is awful.
I was working during this game, but I was following it along on my phone, and it's like 70. It's 73-70 Cleveland with like 6 minutes left in the third. I'm like, okay, not terrible. And then you look, and with like a minute to go, it's only 79, 74, or something like that. I mean, the Bulls had scored 4 points in like 5-6 minute span. You just look at the field goal percentage for both teams. It was horrendous. Having not seen the game, I can't say whether it was outstanding defense or just really poor offense. I'm guessing it was a little bit of both. But this game, at least it was close, because other than that, these two teams did not play very well. You mentioned Kyrie; he was awful. I thought LeBron James had a decent stat line, but what was he, 10 of 30 shooting? Derrick Rose wasn't that great shooting, but he led the Bulls. At least they could shoot from outside the arc, because Cleveland was terrible.
Yeah, Cleveland was 5 of 25 from 3. They continue to shoot 3-point shots. LeBron 1 of 7, as I mentioned. Iman Shumpert 1 of 6. What really saved their ass was J.R. Smith again, the tattooed one, the stupid one. 3 of 6 from deep, so that really saved their ass. The free throw, it was amazing that you said the field goal percentages were terrible, which they were. Cleveland was 29 of 75. Chicago was 32 of 89. You just look at LeBron and say, 14 rebounds. Well, he played, 43 minutes the entire game except 5 minutes. And there were a little over 100 shots missed, about 105 shots. So if you're a player of his caliber, I would hope you could get to, 12%, 14% of the missed shots. So
I was surprised that Tristan Thompson only had 6-7 rebounds, and he normally gets 14 or 15 a game. It seems like in this series, he's been unreal. Crashing on the offensive end. I think he's the true unsung hero of this team if they win this series against Chicago. He doesn't score a lot of points, but he gets in there after loose balls every time, it seems like. Might not get them all, but he's right there. So I think Tristan Thompson is really is the true X factor if Cleveland wins this series.
Yeah, good rebounder, averaged 8 and 8 this season. Mozgov, he played pretty good, almost played 40 minutes. He had 15 points, 9 rebounds. He played very, very well. The free throw shooting in this game was tremendous. Chicago was 11 of 12. Kind of surprising they didn't have more attempts, considering the home team, usually gets more attempts because of the whistles. Mm-hmm. Cleveland was 23 of 24. I mean, that you want to look at one of the things. Why did they win? They missed one free throw, so that was outstanding.
Yep.
Derrick Rose, I thought, played pretty well. 11 of 23, 2 of 5 from beyond the arc, 31 points. And everybody knows about his injuries, and he got hurt here a couple months ago and only sat out 6 weeks, and he's back, and he's playing very well. And some people maybe would think, well, it's time to give up on him because he just gets injured and misses years, and then he misses another year, then he misses another 20, 30 games this year. But if you just look at his performance in this playoffs, I mean, when he plays well, I mean,
he has 2 days rest.
Yeah, he's an MVP for a reason. He played pretty well today, so I would say it is worth it to wait out this guy's injuries because he seems as healthy as he's ever going to be. And, I mean, without him, Chicago has no chance whatsoever.
Right.
And, I mean, with him, they probably don't win this series, but at least it comes down to the final seconds. So.
But you do see, I guess today was a little bit more of an exception because he was playing off of, a 1 day rest. But he's most effective, or has been most effective in this postseason when there have been 2 days in between. Maybe that's why the NBA decides to do their stupid-ass scheduling that way, to try and give their stars, who are often injured, a little more time to heal up in between games.
Yeah, and Mark Jackson and Van Gundy on the game, they were kind of half jokingly, half serious, to give these teams a week off here so everybody can get healthy because, Gasol's hurt and everybody's dinged up. And, Kyrie Irving is useless at this point in time. So I think the series was decided on this shot here. LeBron makes it. If the Bulls win that 3-1, I like their chances to win one more game. But the fourth quarter, 16 points. That's terrible for Chicago. They only had 17 in the second. They had a long stretch in the second quarter, almost 7 minutes without scoring a single point. At a similar stretch here in late in the third, early in the fourth, they were up 11 points in the third quarter, 7 at the end of the third, and basically a 15-point turnaround there. And hell of a deal at the end of the game where LeBron is double teamed by Dunleavy and somebody else, and they're expecting a foul and possibly, and they're I don't remember who it was, and he's waiting to foul him, and he kind of almost an elbow to the shoulder or the face of Dunleavy, and Dunleavy falls over, and they call the foul on LeBron, and he was in prime LeBron wine mode today. But that was a 2-point game with about 15 seconds left, and without shooting free throws, Chicago got the ball and made it a tie game there in the final second. So,
yep, Derrick Rose. I think about the last 3 days, we've had game-winning shots. I mean, it's been unreal, the action that we've seen. Derrick Rose hits it Friday night against Cleveland after, Cleveland battles back. Then yesterday you see Washington almost blow. Well, they did blow a 21-point lead, eventually tying with Atlanta. And then Paul Pierce hits a game-winning 3 at the buzzer. And then today, LeBron answers Chicago's game-winning shot on Friday night with one of his own. So you talk about great finishes. We've absolutely seen that so far the last 3 nights.
And Jimmy Butler, he played 45 minutes. He's an Iron Man. He really doesn't come out, and he's getting the assignment on LeBron more times than not. 19 points, 5 rebounds. He's there. I mean, Derrick Rose is probably more important to them because he has a scoring threat that nobody else does. But Jimmy Butler, All-Star game this year, most improved player. He's their best two-way player by far. He's one of the best two-way players.
Was he in any part of the trade talks with
yes.
Timberwolves to get Love?
It was him and Taj Gibson, maybe a Nikola Mirotic. Those are the 3 big names. So
now looking back, now don't get me wrong, if you're a Timberwolves fan, you have to really like what you have in Wiggins. But then
I mean,
again,
that's all you got in the trade. Wiggins is all you got.
Yep, because you traded Thaddeus Young, and you know what I've said about him before. It's like, why would you give up a first-round pick for a guy who's only going to play for you half the season? And plus, and I'm not saying that he was great, but he's still fairly young and was pretty decent out there in Philly. So
he's okay. Yeah.
I know, but if you're going to give up a first-round pick, use him for more than 4 months.
Yep. So that's an interesting trade. If the Bulls have Kevin Love, and they'd have to give up Jimmy Butler and Taj Gibson. I'm glad they didn't. I'd rather have those two guys than Kevin Love. So
it would be weird. It would be interesting to see how he and Gasol would have interacted then, or maybe if. Well, I don't know. Had they gotten Gasol before before this trade would have happened?
It was kind of a thing. Either it was Carmelo Anthony or Gasol, and if they get Gasol, do they really need to go after Kevin Love then?
Right. And Oklahoma City was going after Gasol too, if I'm not mistaken.
It was kind of you want Kevin Love, do you want Paul Gasol, do you want Carmelo Anthony? And they picked Paul Gasol, and that worked out fine. So
yeah.
I mean these playoffs. I mean, I thought the second round would be better, but this Atlanta-Washington series is just brutal. I mean, it's no good because this series and the Houston to be a championship level team, and one of these teams is going to play in the conference finals.
I think it's going to be funny if Atlanta or if Washington and Memphis show up in the NBA Finals. I'm going to be very curious if the NBA can even get $15 million to watch that.
I mean, it's Cleveland. It's theirs for the taking in the East, with John Wall out now with Washington. But we talk about we like to see new teams in it, new teams involved.
Mm-hmm.
But Golden State, I'm fine with Golden State. They haven't played well last 2 games, but that should be a good series versus Memphis. I like seeing Golden State in there, but Houston and the Clippers, they got a bunch of all-stars, but I just don't. Look at something. I mean, the way Houston played on Friday night was awful. Almost lost by 30 points. Terrible. Chris Paul came back, played 23 minutes. Played 23 minutes, 12 points, 7 assists, did okay. But, it just isn't those caliber of teams.
Let me ask you something. In the Western Conference, we know who would the NBA rather have it? And I'm just talking between the Rockets and the Clippers. Would you rather have Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, or would you rather have Dwight Howard and James Harden? I would think you would take the Clippers because, one, it's of the LA market.
Yep.
But also because Paul and Griffin are slightly bigger stars. But it's not like you're falling that far down by taking Howard and Harden.
No. I mean, the Spurs have been there a lot, and people really don't like the Spurs. But,
Right.
LeBron, he'll be in the finals, and people will tune in for him. So, I mean, that'll be fine. Memphis up 2-1 in the series versus Golden State. Is this a serious thing we have to worry about if you're a Golden State guy? Memphis.
What did Charles Barkley say? What does he even say?
Golden State. So Golden State can't win because of that.
Yep. And you're starting to see that now with how Memphis is playing defense. I don't know what happened to Golden State last night. I was watching most of that game, and they, Steph Curry couldn't hit anything. They had bad passes. It's a different team. This is the first time that they will fight through, adversity this season. They were 67-15. You lose a game here or there in the regular season, it's like, no big deal. Now it's the playoffs. You've lost home court advantage in this round. Memphis is playing outstanding right now. I love what Marc Gasol is doing. Mike Conley playing with that facial fracture in the mask. He's the masked man. He's doing outstanding work. I had picked Golden State in 5 if Conley wasn't playing. He missed the first game, and that's the only game so far that Golden State's won. So if you look at it, you could look at him being the true X factor as to why Memphis is up right now over Golden State.
Yeah, pretty much comes down to defense, I would say. And I like to think of Memphis as the new Spurs, no big time names, but they do well. But the only difference I can think of is that the Spurs front office is the best, and the Grizzlies front office is shit because they run coaches out of town for no reason. Spurs would never do that. So,
No.
I guess they won't have the longevity of the Spurs, but
No.
like the way they play is very good, similar, share the basketball, defense. So we won't.
And
get
again,
to
just
see
on the Eastern side, if Washington makes it, perhaps Paul Pierce will get introduced every game coming out of a wheelchair.
Apparently, another game-winning shot for him. If Chicago were to somehow pull off a miracle and beat Cleveland here, Washington's been one of those teams that they just can't beat in the playoffs for whatever reason. But if John Wall's hurt, that should do wonders. There's lots of injuries, lots of injured players. Which one is more significant to you? Is it Kevin Love? Is it Kyrie Irving? Is it John Wall and his wrist? Is it Chris Paul? Conley seems to be fine.
It's a guy who's not even playing. It's Thabo Sefolosha.
Okay, no.
I am telling you right now.
No.
I'm just.
I know you're big on
him. He's fractured the mentality of the team. Because we see Washington, they were able to win Game 3 without John Wall. So I'm going to say ex-nay to John Wall because he's not the factor there. Kevin Love, I would say, would be the only other real option here. Maybe Mike Conley, because as I just mentioned, the only game Memphis has lost so far in their series with Golden State was the game he didn't play. And they did struggle a little bit with Portland in that final game of their first round series. So you could say that. Kevin Love, though, he was just starting to gel with the team in that first round. He had played probably his best basketball of the season. So I would drop him down a little bit. So I'd say either Mike Conley or Sefolosha. I know I'm in the minority with Sefolosha, but when he went down when he went down with that injury, it's like the whole psyche of Atlanta changed. They were they hovered around 500 the last part of the season, 9-9. And granted, it's probably because in the playoffs you need to have someone who's going to take over a game, and they didn't have a guy on their team this year score over 30 points in a game. I mean, that's unreal, and they had that record. But Sefolosha is a very good defender, and I think just with everything that happened there, it really kind of hit the team hard, and they haven't been able to recover from that. Not saying he's the best player out of these guys, but I think the impact that he's made or that he makes on this team is the reason why Atlanta's going on this little roller coaster ride.
I would say my biggest problem with that is that he only played 18 minutes a game this year. He only played 52 games. He missed the last 5 because of that police incident. So he had missed, a good 25, 30 games before this. My guy would be Kyrie Irving because I think they can survive. They can win the East without Kevin Love. They can beat the Bulls. They can beat whatever team they play in the next round. But, Kyrie Irving, I think he's the most important injury here. Because
what happened to him? Because I didn't hear that he was injured at all. What did he do this game?
He aggravated a leg thing in the last Boston game. Okay. And he looked terrible today. He hobbled around. If they got 2 guys like that, they can go to the finals and maybe win it. But if it's going to be all LeBron here, that's going to be tough. So
yeah, well, I think the key for them was splitting at home, going 1-1 with J.R. Smith being out for the first 2 games of his, for his suspension. Now that he's back, it adds another weapon for them from outside, so it can pick up some of the slack that Kyrie might be dropping off a little bit, and Kevin Love with them both being injured. He can't replace both of them, but he can at least negate some of the loss.
He's a hell of a shooter. He makes a lot of big shots. I don't like him because by all intents, he's a stupid ass off the court. But he hit some big shots in this game. So he's somebody that you worry about where he could go off for 3, 4, 5 threes in a row. He hit 10 3-pointers in a game earlier this year or whatever it was. So he can do that. I hate guys that are one-dimensional players and only do one thing. That's the only thing he does. But But he whatever he does it well. So.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey, what's going on in the hockey? The Wild lost.
Yeah.
Got swept. Three
I could
of
tell
the
you
four
right-
games. 3 of the 4 games were 1 goal. So.
Yep. And even the second game too, it was 2-1 with like 5 minutes left or 6 minutes left in the third period. So that game was fairly close. The bottom line here, Corey Crawford played absolutely amazing. He's the Blackhawks goalie. He played much better than Dubnyk, who really didn't play all that bad, but all the bounces went the Blackhawks way, or all but like a couple of them. I guess there were 2 in Game 4. Thomas Vanek for the Wild goes on a breakaway, gets stoned after the Blackhawks guy wrecks his knee, falling down. Couldn't capitalize on that. They did get a late goal that was a little suspect. Corey Crawford maybe didn't play that one quite as well. But really, if you look at the series, Chicago's, you don't even have to look at the goals. It's all about the neutralized play. Chicago's passes are tape to tape. The Wild's passes, they have to reach out for them. They just dump it into the zone and chase. They have to go back and get them. Chicago's passes are so accurate, they can just get them in stride. And that's really, I think that was the biggest thing in this series. Chicago was just a crisper team than the Wild. And the Wild, I think, will be just fine next year. They do need players like Thomas Vanek to step up. In the playoffs, he didn't have any goals. He was absolutely dreadful. This is dating back to last year, too, when he was with the Canadiens and he sucked. So that's got to change. They do have some other decisions trying to figure out what they can do. But I liken the Chicago Blackhawks for the Minnesota Wild to the New York Yankees for the Minnesota Twins. You face them year after year in the postseason, and they end the season every year. The Twins had a great team the year they opened up at Target Field. Remember, they said they went all in it, and who did they face?
The Yankees.
The Yankees. And that ends their season. The Wild, best team in hockey, second half of the season. They get by the Blues in the first round, but who do they face in the second round?
The Yankees.
Yeah, the Yankees. It's just tough. They have to figure out a way to get by them, and I don't truly know how that's going to happen. A series that you should watch out for.
Rangers Capitals, huh? Rangers Capitals
is going on right now, but the
1-0. Montreal, yeah.
What's the score of that Capitals Rangers game? I don't have that.
1-0 Rangers. 6 minutes left in the first. I have no interest in seeing Washington. I have no interest.
No, you don't want to see Alex Ovechkin?
Yeah. What? Rangers were down 3-1 in this series. Won Game 5. Yep. Hopefully they win Game 6. They have Game 7 at home.
Yep, would have Game 7. The one to watch out for, though, is Montreal. They were down 3-0 in their series with Tampa Bay. My pick to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. And they've won 2 in a row. The momentum's with them. Tampa Bay is in a must-win situation here in Game 6 in Tampa because I don't see them going back up to Montreal and beating the Canadiens in a Game 7 in their building.
Was it happened 5 times? The teams come back 3-0?
4 times. 4 times.
4 times 3-0?
One time in baseball, none in basketball.
And 4 times in hockey. So.
Yep. But the difference is a goalie. That is the biggest thing. You can ride a hot goalie in hockey. What you can't necessarily ride a hot jump shooter in basketball. That only goes for so long.
My little bracket here that I filled out, I had Tampa Bay and the Rangers in the East. I did have Chicago and Anaheim in the West, with the Rangers defeating Chicago. So for my own personal interest, I need New York to win this series here. So
yep, I believe I have the same as you. I wanted to go with the homer pick with the Wild, but I could not. The Ducks look really good right out there in the West. They haven't been tested too much, though. I guess they were tested against the Jets. Didn't lead to much of that series, but always came out with a win in the end. Anaheim, Chicago, that's going to be a great series. I think Chicago gets that, though, and gets to the Stanley Cup Finals.
I missed 3 in the first round. I had the Islanders over Washington. I also had Vancouver over Calgary, my Calgary team. That's just Calgary. And also Louis beating Minnesota. And those 3 things did not happen. So Tampa Bay.
I know I got one of my picks wrong in that first one. I think I took
Minnesota. Yeah.
Canucks over the Flames. No, I mean I picked the Wild over the Blues in 6, so I was right on with that.
Yeah. You probably picked Washington over the Islanders.
Yes, I did.
I would like Washington to lose just to continue this storyline of them underachieving in the playoffs. I would like that.
Yeah, but at the same time, this feels like a different Capitals team. I think that what they did against the Islanders in the first series to win that in 7 games, to not just back down and lose at home, because they have struggled in their own building in Game 7s at home. The Rangers are a very difficult team. There's no doubt about it. I'd say though that this Washington team isn't like the Washington Capitals teams of previous years.
No hockey tomorrow. Is this the first no hockey day of these playoffs, or?
Maybe they're giving Anaheim and Calgary an extra travel day. So
Anaheim and Calgary play tonight.
Oh yeah, yep.
So they could close that out and have a Montreal and Tampa Bay Tuesday, right?
I'm sorry, yeah. Montreal, Tampa Bay get the extra travel day. The Minnesota Wild and the Chicago Blackhawks would have played a Game 6 tomorrow night if Minnesota was still in that series.
But they didn't.
They decided not to play the games just for fun. So
you have to do some exhibitions here.
Exactly. Prepare for next year.
On the baseball front, the Minnesota Twins have played outstanding these last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible that first week. 1-6, got ransacked by Detroit, and it all comes full circle here Tuesday, where they have another 3-game series versus Detroit. So a month later, they are at 18-14. I believe they had won 9 of 10, beating the likes of the White Sox and the Indians. You got to beat up on those poor teams. Why has this team turned things around? What has happened?
I can't tell you. I can't give you one specific reason. Hunter had, 3 home runs in 3 consecutive games prior to today.
He played well.
He's starting to hit the bat well. The pitching staff's been better than expected. I can't give you an exact answer. I really can't. Who's that guy who hit the first his home run in the first pitch he saw? Rosario?
Eddie Rosario. Yep.
Rosario, yeah. So
he'll be probably a corner outfielder starting next year.
That gives you a lot of hope if you're a Twins fan. I do think that the White Sox have been a disappointment. The Indians have been a disappointment. And so the Twins just playing moderately better has them in the position where they are now of 2 games back, maybe 2.5 if the Royals win tonight against Detroit. But for the Twins to even be in this discussion right now, I'd say definitely they're one of the more pleasant surprises in all of baseball.
Drew's working on something for the blog, I believe. Hopefully that's out tomorrow, trying to kind of look at the numbers. I think why this team is good, why this team is bad. I will say when you have a run like this, it's usually offense and pitching are both playing well. A lot of runs scored. I think they've scored the most runs in baseball the last 2 weeks. And I think if you go back to August 1st of last year, so the last 3 months, they've scored the most runs in baseball. So that's very good. But I would say they're winning because how much their pitching has improved. It's still in the bottom half as far as most stats and ERA, and they are by far the worst team striking out 5-6 batters a game, which is by far the worst. But their ERA.
That dates back to their years and years ago. That's not how the Twins play baseball. You might have that strikeout guy like Johan Santana or Francisco Liriano, but for the most part, the Twins don't do that. They go with ground ball outs, some fly ball outs. But
do you know why?
That's not typical Twins baseball to get a lot of strikeouts.
That is because strikeouts, much like power hitters, cost money, and they don't pay for strikeout guys.
This is true.
That's why that happens. I think it's the improvement in the pitching is the biggest reason why they've improved. And when you have pitchers like you mentioned that do not strike guys out, your defense has to be good. And their defense last year has been awful, and they are a little better this year. So 18 and 14. They are the wild card right now. So if the season ended today, 125 games early, they would be the wild card.
It's nice that they're showing moderate improvement so far this year. They're more fun to watch this year currently than they are last year. Kind of the second half of the season they were better because they were scoring a lot of runs. But I think just like with the Houston Astros, we're leading the AL West. Both of these teams will taper down a little bit and fall back to earth more to where everyone kind of expected them to as the season wears on. But you can definitely see that each of these teams, specifically the Astros, have a bright future ahead of them.
Our Houston squad, which we picked in the pick'em this week, along with Charlie, they went 2-5. They did not play well.
I can't believe they got swept by the Rangers.
That was bad. They wasted a 8-inning 1-run start by Dallas Keuchel, who should be, by all accounts, the AL Cy Young favorite right now. Wasted a 1-run 8-inning outing from him. The good thing about this, though, is if you're Houston, you go 2-5 this week. You still lead your division by 5 games because nobody else in that division is worth a damn.
No, Seattle and LA just kind of like butt heads against one another and will split. They're not doing any damage to get back to climb up into the standings.
So I love Houston. Their offense is very frustrating because they had 1 hit today, had a no-hitter going into the 7th inning. Garrett Richards for the Angels did. They ended up blowing the bases, scoring 1 run. They lose 3-1. They hit 3 home runs last night and win 6-4. Before that, they couldn't do nothing offensively the entire week, so they strike out a lot. They lead the league in home runs. Their pitching's very good. Their defense is very good, but it's an all-or-nothing offense, and that's kind of like your jump shooting analogy, all or nothing here. Either they're hot, 3 home runs a game, or they're not, and they get 1 hit today.
Feast or famine.
That's right. So Houston still leading that division. They are tied with the New York Yankees at 20-12. 2 teams which most people did not think would make the playoffs. Houston more than the Yankees. You picked the Yankees to be the wild card. Yep. Michael Pineda, their best pitcher now, he struck out 16 Orioles today in only 7 innings. They took him out with 110 pitches. With records 20, 21 pitches or strikeouts. So has some arm trouble history. So they take him out after 7. This Yankees bullpen, though, is great with Andrew Miller, closer, long, lanky left-hander, was traded to Baltimore last year. They paid him a lot of money. I do not believe he's given up a run as of yet. If he has, he's given up 1 at the most. And Dellin Betances, a little over 100 innings last year in relief. He strikes out a couple of guys an inning. He's really good. And a lot of other no-name guys that are doing good in this bullpen. So
I think that benefits the Yankees, though, this year is that they were coming in with fairly low expectations for the first time in, I guess, last year too. But there are very few people, even in a wide-open AL East, that really gave this team much of a chance. I like the decision to take Pineda out today because of Tanaka's arm injuries. If Pineda's going to pitch that well, why risk him going further, deeper into the inning or deeper into the game? Don't do that. Take him out, rest his arm up because you're going to need him down the stretch. I picked the Yankees in part because I thought Alex Rodriguez would have a decent year coming back, and so far that part has held up to fruition.
Yes.
He passed Willie Mays, 4th all-time on the home run list, so good job to him. I know we're going to look at him with an asterisk in terms of how many career home runs he's hit because of all the PEDs and steroids, but at the same time, he is still in 4th place, and I like how everyone's kind of got his back, especially the fans and everything, and saying, Yankees, you suck because you are going to fight him for $6 million when you put it in his contract.
Yeah, you should pay the guy. If you don't want to pay him, then don't play him, and have him sit on the bench for the next 3 years and have him collect his $60 million. They're starting pitchers.
They are in this position. If they do that, they are not 20-12 right now.
And the worst thing is he's their best player. He's their best hitter right now.
They're
And
damned if they do, damned if they don't.
starting pitching is a weakness. They got a lot of no names, but the no names have done well thus far.
Yep.
A lot of snarky comments out there about people not acknowledging him passing Willie Mays because of the drug use. People that pissed off him shouldn't be so much pissed off at him as they should be pissed off at baseball itself, because I mean he took things over a decade ago with Texas and didn't really get caught until this latest thing when he was suspended for a full year with the Yankees. So and we've seen baseball crack down on this to the point where you're suspended for 80 games, half a season for a first offense, a significant test, and if you were to somehow test positive a third time, it would be banned for life. So if baseball wanted to do something like that 10 years ago, that would have been nice to see, but they drug their feet for so long. And now finally, 12 years later, we get that. So if you want to be pissed off at somebody, be pissed off at the decision makers that did not. I mean, I remember when like Rafael Palmeiro tested positive and he got like 10 games or 15 games. So
and he was dog shit after that too, if I remember correct.
A long cry.
But remember, he points at Congress and says, "I did not take steroids."
Period.
Exactly.
He added the punctuation.
Yep. But it's the same way if you're going to look at it like Alex Rodriguez, you're in the same boat with Barry Bonds. I like Barry Bonds. I thought the sad part is both Barry Bonds and Alex Rodriguez had the supreme amount of talent, and they would have done great things in baseball. Maybe not broken all the records or gotten as close as they were now. Or in Bonds' case, he did break Hank Aaron's record, but they would have certainly been close and would have been revered in all of baseball. All the history books and the historians and everything like that. Fans would have loved them for years and years, and now you just do some steroids to help you really get that ultimate level, and now you're some of the most hated people in all of baseball. It's kind of sad when you really think about it, because they weren't the only the players that took steroids. They're just two of the players that had the most success that already aided to their high talent level to begin with.
They were the two best players. 98 with Sosa and McGwire, and they were both dirty as well, along with everybody else. And it's surprising looking back now that the media didn't go headfirst into that story of drug use. And maybe you would ask Bud Selig and owners, and they would say, "Oh, we really didn't have any suspicions." Well, I was 10 years old at the time, and I had a friend of mine who he did not like Mark McGwire when he was 10 years old. I was like, "Why do you not like him?" Well, because they found this andro drug thing in his locker, and that helps you become strong and stuff. And as a 10-year-old, he figured that out. So how could these other people, much older and wiser than us, back in 1998, not figure that out?
Because they refused to want to believe it. Baseball was that was the greatest storyline in baseball's last 10, 15, 20 years. This race between Sosa and McGwire. I mean, I had Ken Griffey Jr. baseball for N64, so of course you'd bat.
And you hate baseball. And
yeah, I love Ken Griffey though. Ken Griffey's great, but you'd have the Cubs and the Cardinals. It was epic. It was fantastic. I had that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I remember watching that race, and I think for baseball folks, they just wanted to believe that, look at what's going on. This is fantastic. It's got the whole sports world, by the skin of their teeth. And now baseball is trying to get back out of what I'd say was a kind of a dark period there with all the steroid use and trying to fight it and all that. But they have gotten better. I will say that they probably have the strictest drug testing in all of sports. And whether you want to look at that as the silver lining coming out of the steroid era, it's kind of like the silver lining out of all the domestic violence cases last year in the NFL is that it was finally bringing a serious issue more to the public light. and people were starting to take it much more seriously. Now you wish it hadn't had to come to what Adrian Peterson, Greg Hardy, and Ray Rice did for it to be brought to that. But at least now people are much more aware and taking it much more seriously.
The only thing different about that Ray Rice thing is that we saw it. We'd never seen it before, and everybody lost their minds. Even when this had happened dozens of times, if not, it probably happened at least 100 times over the past 10 years.
Oh yeah,
with NFL. So
without a doubt,
amazing how one incident where we can see it on tape, and I'm sure there's others on tape that we just never got to see. So
I just want to add one thing to the baseball thing. I really love Commissioner Rob Manfred, and he is pushing the idea out there of maybe shortening the season to 154 games. I would be in favor of that, but I would say keep 162 games, but shorten the season by 2 weeks by playing double headers.
No, they won't do that here.
No, I think double headers would be fun. You don't. Each team plays like 3 a year, 3 or 4.
That'll be fine. 3 double headers. Yeah, that'll be fine. I would say. I mean, I can't remember in the history, literally in the history of sports, and I cannot remember a league worth anything saying we are going to play less games, because that means less money. And I just do not have an example where I can think of I have lots of examples of football and baseball expanding the season. Mm-hmm. Lots of examples. I have 0 examples for them saying we're going to shorten the season.
And I hate the NBA for their extended long breaks in the playoffs. The NBA wants to extend the regular season by a week. I don't know. Does that mean they start earlier? Does that mean they shorten the playoffs a little bit so you don't have as many 2 and 3 day gaps in between games? I'd be okay with that, but just don't keep expanding the season out. Like if you're going to start, if basketball wants to start a week earlier in October, I'm absolutely fine with that and then the same time. But don't stretch it out into the end of June. That's enough. We don't need that.
It's a bit long. And it should be noted that my World Series pick of the Oakland Athletics, they now have the worst record in the American League at 12-21, despite the fact that they have given up only 3 more runs than they have scored. So a lot of games in there in which they have scored double digits, and that kind of you would not expect a team to be 9 games under 500, scoring 3 fewer runs than they've allowed. So
no, they did lose 13-0 to the Twins this week, though.
That was not good. That does not help. And I should, on the other side, I should say Cleveland and Seattle, 2 teams everybody was big on. Sports Illustrated picked Cleveland to win the World Series, for God's sakes. But I had neither team in the playoff picture.
I'd like to apologize to Kansas City and the Royals, all their fans, not the ballpark concession stands, because they serve you moldy hot dogs and
terrible
bad hot dogs and buns. But I discounted them. I wanted to take Kansas City. I really did. Cleveland to me was just like I guess I'll take them because a lot of people seem to who know a hell of a lot more than I do about baseball and about the Indians seem to know what they were talking about with them. And I thought that losing James Shields and Billy Butler would not help the Royals at all, but they're certainly playing great baseball right now, and I like to see that. I like to see Kansas City be good.
That's fine with me. I've jumped on the bandwagon after years of resistance. Also, Oakland, they've scored the 3rd most runs in the league, behind Toronto, who scored the most, and Kansas City.
It's feast or famine with them, too.
Yeah, so their pitching is very good. And I have found out that, similar to the draft, similar to national predictions, they can say whatever they want. I will listen to them, and I would say, okay, I will take that information and say, okay, you like Cleveland to win the World Series. Do you like Seattle to win this? Okay. You like this team to do this? Okay.
I'll go the opposite.
Yeah. I will say, well, maybe, sometimes that's right, sometimes that's not. Washington, they 100 games. Right now, not on pace to even closely do that. But
they're playing a lot better, though, right now.
They're only 3.5 back of the Mets, so they can very much win that division.
Marlins are making a comeback too, so
very early in the season still. So garbage. We know that the Brewers are pretty garbage, even though they've played better recently, played 500 ball recently. The Rockies have fallen off. But there's only – Phillies are awful. There's only 11 teams that are over 500 right now. So a lot of teams under 500 still can make a run. My nominee this week for pitcher of the week would be Danny Salazar for the Cleveland Indians. I believe this
today's
is
performance.
Today's performance. He also had one on the 20 on May 5th. So earlier in the week, he gave up 4 runs, 5 hits. Not the greatest. Got a loss versus Kansas City, but he has faced the Twins twice this season. First start of the year, last start of the year. It was a one-hitter today. Dozier hit a home run, led off the game with a home run. He struck out 11 after that. He struck 10 Twins out in 6 innings. So 13 innings versus the Twins this year, 21 strikeouts, nearly 2 an inning. That's unbelievable. ERA 3.27. That's decent, little above average. So I would nominate Danny Salazar, the pitcher of the week.
I will go for that one. I would say Pineda, but he's kind of a more well-known name, and he just had the one. I guess I'd have to look back at what he did earlier this week.
5-0. 5-0.
Anytime you mow 16 guys down, I'd say you definitely deserve at least a nomination. Get your name mentioned in there.
We'll see what happens next week. I mean, injuries have been his problem. Injuries have been his problem. He has been effective. That has not been his problem. When he's out there, he's done very well. So we look towards the pick'em now. I don't know if you still have time to make your pick, but the standings, Traxler lengthening his lead. We've had a lot of guys pick similar teams. You, me, and Charlie, I believe, picked Houston last week. Then you had the other triple threat of David, Drew, and Marcus pick the Giants. Then you had Traxler's brother pick the Yankees. Currently, me and his brother are tied at 4 games back of Marcus. David's 4.5 back. You and Charlie now are Charlie's 8 back with Drew, tied for last at 14-19. You are 7.5 back. David's made his pick this week. I've made my pick this week. You can make your pick anytime tonight or tomorrow. But
yeah, I'm looking right now.
At least for me, because I picked some heavy hitters such as the Nationals and the Royals and the Cardinals recently. It's becoming harder and harder here in week 6 of the season to pick a team.
Yep. I'm Pirates possibly, more so just because of the fact that they get 4 against the Phillies, even though they're on the road. I look to who plays the Phillies really. I might even take Boston this week. They do play your Oakland A's, so that's always a possibility too. Otherwise, maybe this is the week I take the Padres. Oh no, never mind. Okay. Maybe this is the week I take Washington. They have to travel out to the desert to face a terrible Diamondbacks team. There are a number of different teams that I certainly will look at. Maybe I already took the Brewers, so I can't take them again.
And nor should you. Nor should you.
Well, they play the Sox, and the White Sox are not very good.
You and me and Charlie went on the Astros. They won 10 in a row, 2-5 this week. Charlie also went in on the Mets a couple weeks ago. They ended up 2-5 after winning 10 games in a row. So it seems like no team's probably winning 15 games or anything like that. No. And the Twins, the Twins have Detroit and Tampa Bay this week. So they would have been a good pick either of these last 2 weeks. But it's kind of like you're going to pick the team that's on the hot streak, and they're going to cool off right after they win 7, 8, 10 in a row.
Don't pick them. Don't pick a team that's going really good. Honestly, and Boston plays Seattle this week after Oakland, but they do have 7 games there. I'm leaning. Then you have the Angels, who have been pretty bad. They get Colorado this week. I might actually go the Angels in a somewhat mild upset here. They take on the Rockies this week, and they're at Baltimore. So that could be tough, but Baltimore hasn't been playing that good. So it's weird. They only play 2 against the Rockies. They're off tomorrow, then play 2 against the Rockies, then off on Thursday before a 3-game set with Baltimore.
They get
Go
plenty
check
of
that
days
baseball
off.
schedule out.
They get plenty of days off. So Marcus is 3 up on his brother, 4.5 up on me and David. They think this is going to come down to like the last series of the year. I think this is we're gonna pretty much know a week or 2 before the season's done. We're gonna have a good idea who the winner is going to be. In about a week left, they're going to probably go to that last week with a 4 or 5 plus game lead, and to where they only need to win 1 game. Because college football, NFL pick'em, we have a good idea looking back on it. The last 2 weeks of the year, you may have a 4 or 5 pick lead. That's a pretty good lead to have. You can probably pick the favorites those last 2 weeks, go 8-8, and pretty much
if you
win.
if you can have a team in your back pocket that's really good, like if you somehow kept the Washington Nationals till one of the last 2 weeks, you can maybe gain some ground there and really make some headway.
Yeah.
But I'd say probably for the most part that's not going to happen.
I have not picked the Dodgers yet, so
Nor have I.
I have not picked Detroit yet. The Yankees are an interesting team to see how long they keep this up. So
I think I told you I was going to I had the Twins banked for a weekend in August, maybe
2 months from now, 3 months from now. Yes.
Yep, and I think I'll have maybe I'll take the Pirates in June when they get the Phillies at home.
And if you could really put a schedule together and say, okay, I'm picking this team 2 months from now, this team 4 weeks from now, you gotta say, okay, not to pick those teams when you shouldn't. So
right, absolutely.
Any other things on the docket that you would like to mention?
SpongeBob SquarePants 400 yesterday.
Boy, that was exciting.
How did SpongeBob SquarePants get the name right for a NASCAR race? Is it from the movie that's coming out?
Well,
is it? I think so. Like a real life SpongeBob, or maybe I think it actually already came out back in February. So is that where they're getting it? Is this going to be the name of the race next year? Because I'd be interested to see if that happens. Why the SpongeBob 400?
I would assume this will be a 1-year thing. But yeah, this has to top the list as one of the most ridiculous names of all time for a NASCAR race. And it just goes to show, if you pay anybody enough money, they will say or do anything that you want. If you paid the Summer League tournament enough money, you can get your logo, your face, whatever you wanted on that court, up in the bleachers, on that scorer's table, read by the PA guy twice a game. If they want a check for $1 million, I bet you dollar to donuts.
Yep,
they would do that for you. So
well, we know at the Summit League tournament they always have the platinum and gold level sponsors that they read off in between, during timeouts and stuff, and then they would also like to thank our other tournament sponsors. And the more money you pay, the more times your name gets mentioned.
If you said mention my name every time for enough money, they would do just.
They would do it.
So
they would absolutely do it.
So Ricky Fowler apparently won the Players. You say,
damn, that's a lot of orange.
This was a 3-way playoff between Kevin Kisner, whatever the hell his name is.
It's not kiss up the glass.
And Sergio Garcia. They went to 3-hole playoff. Apparently, Kisner and Fowler were then tied, and they had to go to another. Very disappointing that Masters winner, number 1 golfer in the world, Jordan Spieth, missed the cut. I believe he's the first Masters winner to miss the cut at the Players since '96. So need a little bit more consistency from him, even though he did bounce back well the week after the Masters after an awful first round, shooting in the low 60s in round 2.
Has he won a tournament since the Masters?
I don't believe so. This is the unofficial 5th major
Yes, and you want to see him, or you want to see the greats, if they truly are great, win these these pro championships like the TPC, the Players Championship at Sawgrass. But at the end of the day, what's it all boil down to? How you perform in majors. I want to see Rory McIlroy win a lot of tournaments and be dominant, but at the end of the day, what do I want to see him win more? Majors. That's what it all comes down to. That's when people will watch the most. I don't give a crap.
Yeah.
I don't give a crap about the John Deere Open in Illinois later in August or whatever. I care about the British Open, the PGA Championship, and the U.S. Open.
Rory McIlroy.
Like that. I don't care.
I think the golfers would agree. Rory McIlroy tied for 8th at 8 under. Good showing for him. 4 shots off the lead. So a couple
Tiger
of
shot 70.
Yeah, he did not play well. He Tiger Woods. I mean, he's just another guy now. He's another guy, another single lonely guy. So
that's for him. For him and Lindsey Vonn.
You have the do you have the somewhat of a season finale with the Sports Lounge next week? 1 episode, 2 episodes, 3 episodes left?
We well, I'd say like this past Tuesday was probably the season finale, shall we say?
You did the big send off and said
yes. But we will. I'll try and get in on Tuesday. We'll see what we can do with that. We'll definitely have a few more shows prior to the end of June when I will be traveling up to Fargo and be roaming with the bison, which is a rather unfortunate statement to make. But I believe so. Yep.
Graduation was yesterday.
Yes. Yep. So everyone's gonna be leaving, so it'll be a little more difficult getting in the studio. But the Sports Block will continue either in podcast form or we'll try and do some online radio. So it's definitely not ending. It's just our time at KSDJ is coming to a fast end.
I'd like to get up there to do one more show.
That would be great. We could do that. We'll try and figure out one time and have a big series finale. Since
this is it, there is no more.
If for it being on KSDJ, but
yes, in that luxurious studio there. So yes,
it's gotten a lot better. I think you'd be impressed by the way that they've transformed it here the last couple of years.
Seems like their music is completely different. It's not that it's better,
it's so different.
But it's
some old school.
Yeah, I mean, before it was random songs you never heard of, apparently new rock, little-known bands, but now you'll have very little of that mixed in with actual songs you've heard of, old songs you've heard of, and then some newer stuff that you still haven't heard of, but it's very different. So
and then some terrible songs like
South Dakota. Not sure what that is. But I'm sure Wyatt had something to do with it. So.
Well, again, I had to record it that one time just so you could.
I think I left it in there too.
We have to get that song during the sports during this little Google Hangout chat sometime. We have got to play that song, perhaps for the loser of the baseball challenge.
If you can find it, go right ahead. A South Dakota song, YouTube right now. I mean,
I'll look back because I know I recorded on a show. I think it got on there. So
if you could find a good version of that, by all means, you can play that.
I'll do my best.
Also want to make mention, hopefully Mr. Traxler joins us next week. He was up covering the president. I don't know if you heard, but the president was in Watertown. President was in Watertown.
I did. It is a big deal. Absolutely.
I think I watched the speech, thought it was tremendous. I thought everything went perfect. Could not have asked for a better thing. I mean, he put on the coat for that they gave him from Lake Area Tech. He got to shake some hands with the people. He met the 11-year-old girl from Vermilion that wrote him the note asking him to come. The whole thing, I thought it was perfect. So
and imagine all those college graduates there. They'll always remember that for the rest of their lives. Just the fact that President Obama came and gave a commencement speech for him. I mean, that is unreal. It's great that he was able to come to South Dakota, to Watertown of all places. Maybe he'll go tour the Black Hills at some point. But for it not being for South Dakota not being a state he had visited at all, and the story came out like, oh, this South Dakota's the only state he hasn't visited, and then a week later, it's like, oh no, guess what's going on? He's gonna give a commencement speech at Lake Area Tech. That's great, and we know South Dakota is a heavy Republican contingency, but I'd have to be hard pressed if you'd find anyone who, regardless if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, you like or hate the president, that wasn't thrilled that he would come and give a speech, a good speech like
that. I wish he hadn't.
Well, I guess, but I thought he performed.
We call these people irrational of thought.
We call them Fox News.
Yes, we really don't. I mean, you can't talk sense with them. I have a story off air for you, an example of that. So we'll wrap it up there and leave the listeners in suspense. If you want to know the story, our 0 viewers watching here, if you want to know the story, talk to me, talk to him. We'll go nuts. So the wedding, how many days till the wedding? Nathan Sack.
Yes.
How many days until the wedding? Do we have a countdown clock?
We do. I think it's like we're 149 or something like that. Kelsey has it on there. She just showed me the other day, and I kind of forgot about it. So I think we're at 149 though.
Do you have to go to the stores and pick out your presents and say, "People, buy me this present, please"?
Yes. Yeah. We haven't done that yet. We do have to get registered. We have a few different spots we're going to go to. I think a Target, Bed Bath & Beyond, and either Lowe's or Home Depot.
How many things will you say, I want this thing because I want it for myself and nobody else? I want this Minnesota Vikings picture signed by Leroy Horde. Are there any spots available for something like that? Say,
I mean, absolutely. You can. I will have a sports room in my house, so I will be taking any and all offers on this sort of thing.
Anything on the list where, like, I want this, that right now, you're going to go to the store and say, we want this lawnmower, we want this tackle box to fish?
Not off the top of my head, I don't have anything like that, but I'm sure as soon as we're looking at some stuff, I'll be like, no, yes, I absolutely want this. If we do not get this, we will buy it ourselves. Very good.
So with that, check out the blog. He'll put the list of things in the blog. You can buy them. So
you better
coming up May, June, July, August, September. 5 months away. 5 months, 5 months and a week away. So
yes,
less than that. So for Nathan Sacken and everybody else, too many to name. Travis Grins, Florida Marlins. We'll have another dandy of a hat next week. The 108th edition, the shortest edition, the Mother's Day edition, the tornado edition of the Sports Lounge.